everybody, Jim Yort with the Right Life Project here, coming to you today with a short video on the topic of mindfulness meditation. As you know, if you have followed me for any length of time, I talk about mindfulness quite a bit in these videos and on my blog, and I also practice it myself. And I do all those things because I've learned over the years what an incredibly valuable practice mindfulness meditation can be. And I often receive a lot of questions about it, in particular from busy, hardworking professionals who ask questions like, how can I fit a mindfulness meditation practice into my life when it already feels like I'm stretched too thin as it is? Or why should I practice mindfulness meditation? Is there any real benefit to it for me? Some people even ask, what if I practice mindfulness meditation and I sort of lose my professional edge? You know, in my job I need to be strong and tough. You know, maybe I'm a negotiator of some kind, and I need to be tough with people and strong. And is mindfulness meditation going to make me soft and unable to relate with others in the way that I need to in order to do my job effectively? So I hope to answer some of these questions in today's video, which is to give you 3 ways that mindfulness meditation can actually help you in your career. But first, just a quick reminder, overview of what mindfulness is and what mindfulness meditation is. I think of mindfulness as being the quality of really 3 things: awareness, curiosity, and acceptance of your unfolding moment-to-moment experience of life. And I'll leave it at that for this video. If you'd like to learn more, you can go to my website and read any number of articles, including one entitled Mindfulness 101 that can walk you through in greater detail what mindfulness meditation is. But really, let's think of it as awareness, curiosity, and acceptance of your unfolding moment-to-moment experience of life. A common misconception is that mindfulness meditation is about trying to stop from thinking, and that is a misconception. We're not trying to stop from thinking any more than we're trying to stop our heart from beating. Okay? We can include awareness of our mental activity, our thoughts, in our awareness, curiosity, and acceptance of our present moment experience. It so happens that if you practice mindfulness consistently for a while, your mind will stop producing the volume of extraneous thoughts that keep you sort of checked out and mindless for a good chunk of your life, most likely. So your mind will calm down by itself and settle. But really that's not the goal of practice. And which raises another important point, which is that I really encourage you, to the extent you decide to practice mindfulness meditation, not to do so for a short-term gain. You know, not to say, well, boy, I'm really stressed out right now, so I think I'll go meditate so I can feel better. Or I'm bored right now, I think I'll go meditate so that I can get a experience of bliss or happiness. Okay, when we do that, we're just perpetuating this idea that the way things are right now in this present moment isn't good enough and that they need to change, which really runs counter to that acceptance piece of mindfulness. So instead, what I encourage you to do is really hold as your reason for practicing long-term benefits. And when you decide to meditate today, for instance, to do so just in the service of a long-term gain that you'll receive. But otherwise today, just sitting for the sake of sitting and seeing what the present moment presents to you today. And if you'd like to read more about that kind of paradox of how change happens over time by letting go of the need for change and accepting the way things are, then I also have an article that covers that in pretty good detail. You could go to my website and search the blog for acceptance versus change and read more about that. But without further ado, let's get into 3 ways that mindfulness meditation practice can help your career. The first one is that mindfulness has been shown to reduce stress. So when I say that, I mean not just reduce the kind of physical, the experience of being stressed out, but also the physical markers of stress. So with mindfulness meditation comes reduced levels of cortisol, which is often called the stress hormone. It's one that's implicated in weight gain. Mindfulness meditation's also correlated with lower blood pressure and higher immune system response. Okay, so our system responds well to mindfulness meditation. It's healthier and stronger and more resilient. Okay, 2, mindfulness helps you stay focused on the task at hand. And this is an issue that comes up quite a bit in my work with clients. People who complain of procrastinating or of having a lot of work in front of them that they need to get done, but they have so much trouble focusing on it and end up at the end of the day not having made the progress that they want. So the way mindfulness helps with this is by improving our attention and a certain type of attention. So really there's 3 basic types of attention. There is alerting attention, they call it alerting, which is sort of heightened readiness to pay attention to something. Then there's orienting attention, which is where you then direct your focus. And then there's conflict or executive attention, which is your ability to keep your focus even in the midst of distractions all around you. So I can illustrate what these look like in real life, or at least an imagined real life. So let's say you're walking through the jungle and you hear an animal growling and you sort of stop like this. Uh-oh, what was that? Okay, that's alerting attention. You're now alert. Okay, now if you look up in the tree and you say, oh, there's a jaguar up in that tree about ready to pounce on me, that's orienting attention. So you've alerted and now you've oriented to a certain place. Okay, now if you then said, oh, and that's a cherry tree. I'd like a cherry. Okay, nope, pay attention to what's most important right now, the jaguar, right? Have a cherry later. Now, I'm not sure if jaguars actually live in cherry trees. I doubt it, actually, but you get the idea. So this conflict attention or executive attention is very important because, and it's important for survival, of course, and examples like that. But in our day-to-day modern life, it's very important because our minds, especially our untrained minds, our mindless minds, that ones that haven't been trained with mindfulness meditation practice, tend to run here and there all over the place. And so conflict attention can help bring it back to where you'd like it to be and keep it there. Those first 2, alerting and orienting, they're pretty much fully developed and in place by the time you're 8 years old. The executive attention, conflict attention, these develop all throughout your adulthood. And so it's a muscle that you can exercise and strengthen. And as a nice fringe benefit, the more focused you are on a task, the more likely you are to enter what they call a flow state. You can look that up. You can Google it, flow states. Flow state, I'm sure you've experienced something like this, where you're so engrossed in an activity, like a sport or a hobby or really any activity, that time just seems to fall away. And you look up and you realize that 2 hours have passed in the blink of an eye. Okay, it's a state of heightened absorption and focus that is also correlated with happiness. And what they find is that the more flow states people have, the happier they tend to be. So there's all kinds of goodness here with respect to mindfulness and attention and focus. Okay, number 3, mindfulness meditation can help improve your relationships. So these can be relationships, since we're talking about career, at work, so with your boss, with colleagues, with people outside your organization that you have to work with. And of course, it can also improve your relationships at home and in your family. But the way it does this is that another nice fringe benefit of mindfulness meditation practice is that empathy and compassion tend to increase along with mindfulness. And furthermore, our capacity to regulate our emotions also improves. And this is something that I talked about a bit in the last 2 videos about anger. And we were talking about the the damage that can be done when we have these explosive emotional outbursts, and how mindfulness can help with that. So as we practice mindfulness, we tend to become less irritable, less aggressive in an uncontrolled way, less reactive, and more responsive. So there's a space between what's happening in our life and our decision to respond to it in a certain way. And in that space, there's room for wisdom to arise and for us to consider what's the best option of the many options that we have. And so this is why this fear that if I practice mindfulness, I'll somehow lose my competitive edge, I won't be able to be tough when I need to be tough, is really unfounded. If you need to be tough, you'll still be able to be tough. You'll be tough and wise and responsive, and therefore more effective. Okay? So there's really not a downside to it as far as I can see. If you can think of one, please let me know. I'd love to hear your comments. Okay, so hopefully now you have some sense that mindfulness meditation could be helpful in your career, but you still might be wondering, how can I do this? I'm too busy as it is. Well, the good news is that in order to experience the benefits that I've just described of mindfulness in your life and in your work life, you don't need to go move to India for the next year and practice meditating. You can do it in little chunks. You know, what the research shows about mindfulness is that the benefits of it begin pretty much right away as soon as you begin practicing. And the more you practice, the more the benefit. So don't let your busy schedule keep you from just starting. You know, just start with a little bit right now. So you can practice at home with some sitting meditation, which I'll talk about in a moment. But you can also do it at work. You know, I find it's helpful to take a 5-minute break every hour or so, just to kind of, you know, let my mind rest, do something else. It's also good physically to get up and stretch. If you do that, you can do some walking meditation. And you don't need to look weird, or people don't even need to realize that you're doing mindfulness meditation. But as you're walking around the office, or maybe walking to the water cooler to fill up your water bottle, what you can do is bring some awareness to the sensation of the soles of your feet as they move across the floor, or the sensation of the air moving past your skin as you walk. Okay? Again, we're not trying to stop from thinking. We're just trying to really have a bigger perspective of all of what our present moment experience has to offer. So at work, it's really easy to become laser focused on a task and really become kind of disembodied and disoriented with respect to our body. So having just a 5-minute break once an hour to get up, walk around, and notice that your body's moving through space, that you can notice the sensation of movement across the floor, or even just sitting quietly at your desk, bringing your awareness to your breath, the sensation of the air moving in and out of your body. Okay? All of these are little snippets of mindfulness that you can bring into your work life without much trouble. And you know, just sitting meditation, paying attention to your breath, or walking, these aren't the only ways that you can practice. Remember that mindfulness is awareness, curiosity, and acceptance of whatever is happening in your present moment. So at your lunch break, you could do some mindful eating, which would involve slowing the eating process down a little bit to take in the smell of the food, to take one bite at a time and really, you know, as you chew, notice the texture, notice how the flavor might be released, and then consciously and mindfully swallowing the food and noticing that you've just taken in this sustenance. as opposed to the way people often eat, especially at work, is just kind of scarfing it down at the desk while they're typing with this hand and shoveling food in their mouth with the other one. Which brings me to another point. As best you can, try to just do one thing at a time at work. For one thing, it's a lot more efficient than doing 5 seconds of one thing and 30 seconds of another and then back to this. As best you can, try to do just one thing at a time. But even if you're forced to multitask, if you're trying to get something done and the phone rings and you have to do that, then as best you can, do that thing fully and then go back to doing this thing fully. Okay? As opposed to what can often happen is we're in the middle of something, we get pulled away, and our attention is left behind at this task even though we're pulled away to this one. So if you can't get away from multitasking, then at least try to bring your whole self and your whole attention and awareness from one thing to the other as you shift throughout the day. This is also a subtle way that you can bring some mindful awareness into your daily life and begin reaping the benefits of it. Now, as for actual formal sitting meditation, that's really it's hard to really beat that, and I would recommend at least trying to develop a regular sitting practice at home. And again, this doesn't have to be for an hour at a time. You could start with even 5 minutes, just sitting down for 5 minutes to pay attention to your breath or the sensations of your body, your mental activity, etc. If you need some help with this, please go to my website where I have some free guided meditations at rightlifeproject.com/meditate. And you can just turn it on, sit down, and I'll walk you through either a 15, 30, or 40-minute mindfulness meditation exercise. And you can do it on your own for 5 minutes, say. So don't feel like you need to go out and really just crush this and start meditating for 45 minutes a day every day and become a monk overnight. That's not the idea. Again, the more little tastes of mindfulness you can bring into your life on a regular basis, the more those benefits will accrue, and mindfulness will become less of a state that you enter just when you're meditating and more of a trait where it begins to really permeate your life and produce many more benefits than the ones I've talked about here today. Okay? So those are my thoughts for today. If you like this video, please like it, share it, tell people about it. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And also please check out my website at rightlifeproject.com, where I have all kinds of resources like articles, podcasts, other videos, free downloads, all kinds of things. So I hope to see you there. Thank you for joining me today, and I will look forward to seeing you next time.